What has been the highlight of your career so far?
Today.
Today?
No
oh, right
question.
this moment?
Today, this interview right here.
Right now?
That we're doing.
I'm honored, thank you. Oh my God.
Well, you never know, this could be it.
And what is the emergency, please? If you should get any worse before the ambulance gets here.
Yes, please hurry up and get here.
Yeah, they are on their way.
We are following some sad news from the entertainment world. Actor Luke Perry has died.
So it's quite a shock to hear today that he'd passed away.
On February 27th, Luke Perry was rushed to the hospital following a massive stroke. Less than a week later, he shockingly died at the age of only 52, surrounded by family.
Okay, listen, I'll see you in school.
Now, for the first time, through his own words in one of his last interviews, we can tell the remarkable life and legend of Luke Perry.
I've had a pretty good go of it,
Yeah.
I think. I feel pretty good.
How could a man seemingly so unbreakable and with so much to live for face a sudden and untimely death? What caused this fatal stroke? Two of the nation's leading doctors attempt to help us all understand.
A lot of folks, big fans of Luke Perry, people who are fearful because they were his age, are asking the same question. How could this possibly happen?
But it is tougher for his fans, I think, when they really don't know what happened here. It's always kind of unsettling. You want to know why and what happened and why we couldn't have done something.
Luke's closest friends and former 90210 colleagues also remember the man, on and off the screen.
I cast Luke, I fought with Luke, I admired Luke, sometimes I pitied Luke, and I love Luke. I just know he took pride in his work. I think that's what the thing he would take, and I think his career speaks for it.
I think Luke would want to be remembered for his mark, for how he was, not what he did, but how he was.
I couldn't be anything but an actor. I feel like I've had a lot of great opportunities, and this is what I always wanted to do. My personal family, it's really all I care about, and I think that everybody can relate to that. I've had a pretty good go of it. Well, you never know, this could be it. I couldn't be anything but an actor, so yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I think you made some good choices.
I got to do a lot of neat stuff.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of great opportunities, and this is what I always wanted to do. So, yeah.
I think we're in total shock when Luke passed away. It seems like only yesterday that he was here in studio talking with us, laughing with us. He was such a gentleman. He stayed after about 20 minutes after the interview even ended, and he was taking photos with everybody, cast photos, crew photos, literally with anybody that wanted to get a picture with him, he stayed.
We knew him as Dylan McKay.
Dylan, the brooding bad boy of Beverly Hills 90210.
Oh, Luke Perry was one of the hottest TV stars of the 90s, there's just no doubt.
Yeah.
Would you let your teenage daughter date Dylan McKay?
No. No.
How come?
No. Why? Because I know that brother. I know what he's up to. But having said that, he was absolutely a man of character.
That's very true.
Yes, I think he was a man of character, so she could do worse, but it wouldn't be my first pick.
Later in his career, he made a huge comeback as Riverdale's Fred Andrews.
We're past that point, Archie.
I spoke to Mom last week. She didn't mention any of this, Dad.
Your mom moved out 2 years ago. She didn't tell you because she wanted me to be the bearer of bad news.
It does a really good job of staying true to the traditional Archie elements, but we turn each and every one of them inside out and make them weird and kind of twisted and crazy. And
right.
The show gets kind of dark.
But Luke Perry was also a passionate campaigner for good causes, a loving father, and a loyal friend.
It's hard to tell people how to raise their kids. And I'm certainly no authority on raising children, but love them as much as you can and talk to them as much as you can. Make time for them.
We get to know America's favorite bad boy and one of TV's greats, Luke Perry. As heartthrob Dylan McKay on Fox's smash teen drama Beverly Hills 90210, Luke Perry became a household name and a pinup around the world.
Let me tell you something, just so you know in advance. I'm not in a good mood today. In fact, I'm feeling a little hostile.
When I went to audition for 90210 for the first time, I was covered. I smelled like gasoline. I had tar all over me.
That's amazing.
It was bad. I didn't have a shirt on. I had to dig one out of the trunk of my car, and I was filthy, basically. I was filthy dirty when I went in there for my first audition.
That's amazing. How come? Just like, did you just
Because I had
find
come
out
right
about
from
it?
work, yeah. And it was back in the days, there was no digital technology or anything, and I had called my agent from a payphone about something, and it was like, you got to get there, and you got to. I said, I can't get there now, and can you get me the last slot of the day? And they said, yeah, just get there when you can. And I remember getting off work and taking off, and no time for a shower.
No, that's amazing. Well, I guess they must have liked you. I mean, it worked out.
The smell of gasoline.
Yes.
They knew, I like to think they knew I was a hard worker, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They knew I wasn't afraid to work hard.
Right.
So.
Luke Perry walks through the door, and Luke Perry sits down. And the first thing he's supposed to do is make a call to Paris, because he's trying to find his father. That's how you meet him. And he's talking to an operator, and he does the whole thing in French. And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching his facial dynamics and stuffing and saying, thank you, God, we got Dylan McKay.
When he went in for that audition, he nailed it. It was him. It's like the people in the room applauded him. He's our Dylan, yay, 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 that kind of thing.
Randy Spelling, the son of the show's creator Aaron Spelling, gives us the untold story of his early days on 90210.
And I remember him saying that he had to fight for Luke. So apparently the network at that time wasn't sold on Luke, but my dad was sold. And he just, the enthusiasm that came out of my father, he saw something in Luke and connected with him.
I remember I got the call one night. They're having a reading of the script of the first episode that your character's in at the producer's house, and they want you to come over and read. And I said, when? They said, well, right now. And it wasn't at Aaron's house. It was at Chuck Rosen's house. And so I went, and I walked into an already established group of people who knew each other, an ensemble who'd worked together, and very clearly, at that stage, the show was to be about this brother and sister who had moved out from Minnesota, and I was just going to be the guest star in the first episode.
And I remember just seeing him interact with the cast for the first time and realizing that not only did he blend in, but I do think that some of the guys looked at him and thought, well, we better raise our game.
On October 4th, 1990, Fox aired the first episode of what would ultimately become one of the world's most popular series. But at first, nobody seemed to notice.
My name's Brandon Walsh.
Brandon Walsh. Scotch or Irish?
Both, actually, by way of Minnesota.
I think if you did a poll of most people about the chances of Beverly Hills 90210 making it through its original order, which was 12 episodes, if you ask them, do you think the show's going to make it, the entire order, the overwhelming majority would be,
I know the first year the show was really teetering, and there was a chance that they weren't going to pick it up. And then it started picking up and gaining momentum, and then, in a couple years there were dolls and T-shirts and lunchboxes.
I can't think of a bigger teenage star than Luke Perry, other than Jason. It was always Jason or Luke. You had the Boy Scout and you had the Rebel. We had two sides of it.
A lot of people already knew, coupled that with the big push of the other stuff, and it just got crazy. It got a little uncontainable. They were inventing magazines to keep up with it. I remember the time that the show was going on, they were literally creating programs just to cover it, and none of us had ever seen anything like that. And again, during all that, Jason and I would look at each other right in the eye and go, just a TV show, dude.
How did Luke Perry become a teen sensation overnight?
I think girls just went crazy, and the guys, whether they would say this and admit it or not, they looked in the mirror and like, how could I do my hair differently? How could I roll up my sleeve? How could I be cool like one of those guys? And they were just cool. They were so cool.
There were 10,000 girls at this mall appearance, and the people who put it together, the producers, for the mall appearance, said it was like Beatlemania.
Luke and I were doing a kissing scene, and he had irritated me for some reason. Who knows which way the wind was blowing that day, and we were fighting, and he had this stuffed banaka, and I remember I don't know what came over me, but I just turned it around and shot it at him, and it got in his eye. And they had to shut down production, and I felt so bad. They took him to the hospital, made a big deal out of it. Oh, his poor eye. Yeah, I almost blinded him.
Luke Perry tragically died at the age of 52 of a massive stroke, leaving behind a legacy both on-screen and off that will forever be remembered. Through his own words and closest friends, we are learning how he became one of TV's hottest bad boys.
Can we get started?
Absolutely.
While 90210 may have gotten off to a slow start, things quickly kicked into high gear.
We are rapidly climbing. Everybody's taking notice.
Both Luke and Jason were just the two guys that every guy wanted to be, every girl wanted to date. They just, yeah, that was it. The coolness factor was 10 plus.
And while the show's hot young cast all became famous in their own right, there was no doubt who the biggest star of Beverly Hills 90210 was.
Welcome to paradise, man.
Luke Perry, ultimate heartthrob. He was just gorgeous. That James Dean hair, that jawline, those big brown eyes.
In a way, every rebel without a cause was like James Dean. So since Luke was a rebel without a cause, he became a James Dean kind of figure.
He went to a personal appearance in Florida at a mall, and there was a lot of people there. And what happened is that so many people got injured and made national media that everybody had to wake up and look that this guy is becoming a phenomenon. This is it became a frenzy. He got on every magazine cover. This is all within like a week.
People were getting trampled, but it was the first time that I realized how big that show actually was.
You got to deal with the realities of it. You got to deal with the realities of thousands of people and all that stuff. But again, everybody was, comparing it to, they were comparing us to Elvis and the Beatles, and Jason and I would just look at each other and go, it's just a television show.
In 1992, at the height of 90210 Luke Mania, he was also cast in the movie version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's a part that he later counted among his favorites.
Is there a role looking back that you wish you can go back and do over again just because it was so much fun?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, probably. Yeah, I would like to do that again. Have Joss direct this time. That'd be fun.
What was it about that you loved so much?
I just remember the difficult thing was I would be shooting 90210 during the day, and we'd have to shoot Buffy all night, and then I would have to go right back to 90210, and after about 2 weeks of that, I was just in this state of exhaustion where I felt like I was drunk for about 3 weeks. And I never really knew whether it was day or night or what was going on. And I'd like to try it again, minus the day job.
Right. Yeah. Did you overlap characters? You're like, what scene am I on? What set am I on?
Well, no, I did have to. I had that little thing on my chin. That was the thing that helped me to realize where I was. I always had to, oh yeah, okay, now I know where I'm at.
At the time, Luke was also taking an interest in the creative side of 90210. Helping form one of the biggest love triangles to ever hit our TV screens.
And he said, I think I should start dating the blonde. And I heard that, and I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he's got 2 girls and he can't choose between them. A lot of the real wonderful things that happened in our 3rd season, our senior year, occurred because of that notion of let's scramble it up.
Brenda, please try to understand how much you mean to us, all right?
I know this is hard for you, Brenda. It's hard for all of us.
So looking back at the Brenda, Kelly, Dylan triangle, I was wrapped up in it, right? Every week, what's gonna happen? And oh, this is so sexy and so hot. And yeah, I think back at that time, that really did push the envelope.
You're going to do better creatively with stuff that you're drawn to, naturally. Sometimes, although, you get the best work out of people when they're so far outside their element and it's 100%, 180 degrees away from what you would ever be like, that you find yourself doing your better work, the stuff that challenges you.
And then, in 1995, with his 30th birthday approaching, Luke's contract on 90210 was up, and Dylan McKay was gone, for now.
You know, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to do that. So I left. Jay stayed. You know, we talked about it. It was real hard for me to leave, and you know, because I loved everybody. It wasn't like, God, you know, I hate these people. I can't work with them anymore. You know, I've been doing it a long time. You know, I signed on as a guest star, and for me, the gig lasted 6 years at that point, and you know, it was, by anybody's estimation, an abnormal stretch.
My feelings when Luke was moving on from the show, I was heartbroken in a way, because as a fan, as a viewer, I really loved Luke's character, and he was such an anchor of the show. You know, he brought an element that wasn't there.
The last day that Luke filmed, which we shot the final scene, which I just think everyone had chills, and everyone, I mean, it was just an emotional day. There were a lot of tears, and Brandon says in the last line is, "I'll see you around," and that was it. You see Luke drive off into the distance, and we all just kind of lost it.
I guess I'll see you around. I guess.
What's your all-time favorite episode of 90210?
Oh man, we did 300.
It's a lot to choose from.
But I do remember
maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll one out here. The day I got married on the show, we had this huge wedding. I mean, it's this gigantic set, and everybody was all decked out in their tuxedos and stuff. And so we just made it into a real-life huge party. And what I remember was the National Enquirer sent a helicopter, and they hovered over and took a picture, and they had a shot of all of us standing out there like that. Oh, it was great.
That's awesome.
The entire cast, and they had all of our hands blanked out, but you know,
awesome.
Somebody still has that photo. Everybody is out there. Just
that's amazing. That's so cool.
That was fun.
Luke Perry had done some theater work and some film work and took a breather from the spotlight, and then he returned for the final 2 seasons of 90210 in 1998.
It was easy for me to go back because I wasn't ever concerned, again, with Jason and I, you know, always kind of checking in with each other. We knew this was one of a number of jobs that we were both going to have throughout our career.
When Luke came back at the end of 90210, of course my dad was happy. Everyone was happy. I mean, again, it's like one of your children coming back home from college. Same kind of thing is, you know, everyone wants to sit and have dinner and talk about times past. So yeah, everyone was happy.
What would Dylan McKay be today? Dylan McKay, Private Eye. Right? That'd be good. Private investigators are weasels mostly, you know. But I try to go kind of take the Magnum route and have him living by the beach. Again, by the beach, cool car. I'd even go for a big mustache this time around, because I'm a huge Selig fan.
Who was the man that made hearts melt, and how did his humble beginnings shape the family man he became?
Luke had a real passion to succeed, so he moved to LA with just a duffel bag, his clothes, and yes, a pet pig.
The thing about Luke Perry that was different than all the other Hollywood actors is that he lived life.
Plus, his death left hearts shattered, and many asking the question, why?
I'm certain Luke Perry had no idea something like this was coming. I feel confident about that.
Luke Perry's overnight success took a lot of hard work, and there were few clues at the start to ever suggest what lay in his future. Born Coy Luther Perry III on October 11, 1966, in the blue-collar city of Mansfield, Ohio, he was the second of 3 children. His mom was homemaker, and his dad, steelworker.
Luke's childhood couldn't be any further from the rich kids of 90210. When he was growing up, his parents divorced, his mom remarried a construction worker, and they moved to this little farming town called Fredericktown.
In high school, Luke landed his first starring role as school mascot Freddie Bird.
I feel like Luke being a mascot in his high school totally fits his personality. Again, you asked me the question, does it surprise you that he would do whatever it took to get the shot to play that character? And that's kind of the same with Luke. I think Luke would jump in and do whatever is needed for that person.
And even though his career would eventually take him to Hollywood, he never forgot where he came from.
In 2004, he heard that I was running for sheriff, so he contacted me if he could help me in any way. Sure, you can help. So he says, what would you like for me to do? I said, well, I'm going to do some advertisements.
Election day, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Jerry Day.
One of the recurring stories that I hear about Luke is that Luke would show up at your door and help you to, water your lawn, build a fence. Like that's just in Luke's nature.
In 1984, he packed up his belongings and headed to LA to make it as an actor.
So he arrived in LA with just a duffel bag and his pet pig, Jerry Lee. But just like every other good-looking guy in Tinseltown, he found himself having to do something else for money.
Luke held jobs at a doorknob factory. He worked at an asphalt paving company. He was doing anything he could to make the rent while trying to become an actor.
I'm not surprised to hear that Luke was about a week away from giving up and going back to Ohio. I get it. I mean, it's tough to keep getting rejected and try and make it. And what's hard in the entertainment business is it is really a making it versus not making it.
After making a brief appearance in Twisted Sister's 1985 music video for Be Cruel to Your School, Luke finally landed his first major acting role on the soap opera Loving.
Luke went on, I would say, approximately 200 and something auditions before he went up for the part in Loving. And here's something interesting. The person that was up for the same audition, the same role, was Ian Ziering. And Luke got it.
I'm sure you'll change your mind.
I won't.
You will.
Get out of here.
So at this time, Luke is in New York, doing okay, nothing really spectacular. But then in 1989, he hears about this show going on back in LA with some young, sexy kids addressing some real issues. So he decides to move back, starts shoveling asphalt, and that is when 90210 fell into his lap.
The thing was, I wasn't in the pilot of the program. These guys had all done, the pilot of the show together, and Aaron watched the pilot and thought that he wanted to have another character in the show, and that ended up being me.
On November 20th, 1993, in the height of the 90210 craze, Luke married long-term sweetheart Rachel Minnie Sharp in a private ceremony at the Four Seasons Hotel, Beverly Hills.
What I've always admired about Luke, and again, another rare quality in this human being, is that his family was first, his career was second. That was just something he did. I mean, he loved doing it, but that was something he did to make a living. What his life was about was his family. That's one of the best qualities I think he has.
My personal family, it's really all I care about. And I think that everybody can relate to that, right? You love your family and you care about them.
Luke and Rachel actually had 2 children, Jack, who was born in 1998, and Sophie, who was born 2 years later.
Luke and Rachel split in 2003, but 5 years later, he found love once again with family therapist and former actress Wendy Madison Bauer. The two were set to marry on August 17, 2019. Despite the changes in his love life, there was one thing that remained constant: his devotion to his children.
He loved participating as a father. It meant a great deal. A lot of the parents in the Beverly Hills Little League knew who he was. And he was that guy. He was a regular guy.
Fatherhood also brought a new sense of responsibility. Although Luke had been an avid motorcyclist and extreme sports fan since he was a teenager, becoming a dad gave him a new perspective on the fragility of life.
Would you let your son ride a motorcycle?
It wouldn't be my first choice either. Not on the road.
Right.
Yeah, we got some dirt bikes, but I don't think it's a good idea for anybody to ride on the road.
I don't think so either.
I was involved in an accident once. A guy ran a red light and hit me. And, I got lucky and walked away from it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. It's dangerous on the road out there, so be careful. No lane splitting. That's not a good idea.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. When you live in Los Angeles in the huge, massive freeway system, and you see people flying in and out of traffic on those motorcycles.
Right.
They're just begging for it. Don't do that.
Right, don't do it. He was an unbelievably devoted father. When I talked to him in 2017, you could tell when he talked about his kids, his face just literally lit up. What do your kids think of your career?
They don't think of my career.
They don't?
Yeah, they don't think of it at all.
Really?
I have seen my children sit on the couch with a remote control.
Yeah.
And flip by me like 3 different times.
No way.
Like, yeah, I'll be on 3 different channels, and they'll stop it like a mayonnaise commercial. Like, oh, yeah. They'll flip right by me like I'm not even there.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, though. I don't want them to dwell on it.
No, so they've never watched like reruns of 90210, anything like that?
I don't know. I don't know if they've watched 90210. I know they watch Riverdale.
Okay.
I know that, we talked about that. That's the first time, that I've ever done anything that they're actually watching.
Like really into?
In real time.
In 2017, Luke made his on-screen debut as patriarch Fred Andrews on Riverdale.
What I get to see recently about Luke on Riverdale is his paternal instincts, which I've never seen before, playing the loving father on this show. I think having his kids enabled him to really convey that. And I think that really was a kind of a special thing I saw in him, which I never saw before.
Your mom moved out 2 years ago. She didn't tell you because she wanted me to be the bearer of bad news.
Riverdale is like the second coming for Luke Perry. Everybody was like, hello, where have you been? And then all of a sudden, bad boy Dylan McKay turns into hot dad Fred Andrews. What's it like playing a dad on TV?
It's pretty good, actually. I think, and the thing I like about this character is that's what he is. He is a dad. He is a father. It is his main job. He's committed to being the best parent he can to this son, and that is as interesting. It can be as intriguing. It's a very noble thing to do. And you see a lot of characters on TV who they just, they have so much going on, and the stakes have to be so high, and it's all this stuff, but it's really difficult just to be a single parent.
Sure.
And we're bringing a lot of integrity to that, so I think that's good.
Did you base this character off of anybody in particular, any role models, anything like that?
I think all characters are combinations of people you've met or or that you know or you wish you knew.
Yeah.
And there's elements of my stepdad in here, I'm sure, and some of my friends. I come from Ohio, and a lot of my friends work in construction, and the guy I play is a construction worker, and I've spent some time on the construction sites, and so he's part and parcel of a lot of people that I know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Gone too soon. How could someone in seemingly good health and so young die so suddenly?
Strokes are significant because it means you're knocking out parts of your brain.
So when we heard that he was on a induced coma, that's when I knew this was a bad situation. It's a bad sign.
And the difficult decision his family had to make.
I just stopped dead in my tracks.
He was a bright light. And it's not so much about what he did, it's just how he did it. And how he did it left his mark.
He stole our hearts as Dylan McKay in 90210 and was reintroduced to a new fan base as Fred Andrews on Riverdale. But his unexpected death left so many unanswered questions to so many generations.
To me, they'll be there soon. If he should get any worse before the ambulance gets there.
Yes, please hurry up and get here.
Yeah, they are on their way. If you have any pets or animals, put them away. If he should get any worse before they arrive, call us back for further instructions.
Okay.
They're on their way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
When Luke Perry suffered a massive stroke on February 27th of this year, nobody saw it coming.
I'm certain Luke Perry had no idea something like this was coming. I feel confident about that. A stroke is not normal for a 52-year-old. A stroke technically is when a clot forms in an artery. Much like in a heart attack, you get a clot in an artery and the heart tissue is damaged. Same thing with stroke. The clot forms in the artery and all the downstream brain tissue dies. That's a stroke. There's something called hemorrhagic stroke when there's various kinds of bleeding in the brain and the brain gets squished that sometimes people also call a stroke.
He had an ischemic cerebral vascular event. What does that translate to in English? He had a blockage of an artery going to his brain, or he had a clot that was thrown to his brain, usually from the heart. There are many reasons for these, but it basically means you suffocated part of the brain. We think it's impossible that someone that young could have a stroke. Well, 15% of the people who have strokes are Luke Perry's age or younger. So it's not rare. 1 in 7 people will be young. And oftentimes it's the young people where it's most catastrophic because they never expect it.
You could fill 20 libraries like this with all the things that could happen to fit otherwise healthy people, right? The things happen to the human biological system. They happen suddenly, they happen without warning, and something like an aneurysmal bleed is one of those things.
But he didn't go through life without some health scares in 2015, when doctors found precancerous growths in his body that caused concern. Thankfully, he was pronounced all clear.
My name is Luke Perry, and I am 1 million strong. I'm in the fight against colorectal cancer because I believe we can win it.
So the irony is that Luke actually became a very passionate advocate for fighting colorectal cancer, and then he was taken by something completely different and completely out of the blue.
There it is, and it's all glory. Here's the deal. Colon cancer. It is the most detectable cancer. There are lots of tests, different ways to find out if you are in danger or if you may have a problem. It is the second most lethal form of cancer for both men and women in America. And if you think about that, it's the easiest to find, it's the easiest to treat, and yet it's the second most deadly. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's a colonoscopy involved. Yeah. People just don't want to talk about it, they don't want to do it. I gotta look you right in the camera. I've had one, it's no big deal. It will save your life.
The reason you get endoscopies, colonoscopies, is to pull the polyps out before they become cancerous, to make sure you don't get cancer. And Luke Perry apparently had this as well. It scared him, as well it should, but colon polyps are extremely common, and it's why everyone at the age of 50 should be getting their colonoscopies every 5 to 7 years, depending on doctor recommendations.
There's no relationship with having a risk of colorectal cancer or having had it in the past. But if you're going through treatment for cancer, it does make your blood stickier sometimes. So people who are going through treatment for colorectal cancer would be at risk. But I think Luke Perry was out of the woods from that regard, and his wonderful work at awakening people during Colon Cancer Awareness Month shouldn't be forgotten.
But this time, Luke's life could not be saved. 5 days after his stroke, his family, led by fiancée Wendy Madison Bauer, took the agonizing decision to switch off his life support.
We know he had a massive stroke where a blood clot went to his brain or a blood clot formed in his brain. Now, because you have nothing else you can do to heal the patient, you put them into a medically induced coma to try to allow the brain whatever recovery time it can use. And at the end of a few days, if it doesn't show recovery, it means that Luke Perry really wasn't in that ICU bed anymore. He was already in heaven.
So when we heard that he was on a induced coma, that's when I knew this was a bad situation. It's a bad sign. What's hard for families is when somebody has to come off a ventilator when there's some possibility of recovery, and you're trying to make a decision of what kind of recovery would that be and what kind of life would that be, and what did this individual want, life at any cost, or would they not want to have lived in a vegetative state? Most people do not want that. But when there's brain death, that is death. And so the decision should be relatively simple, but it's painful.
In America, we do not do death well. We're big on births and can celebrate life, but the end of life is part of the cycle, and we don't talk to each other about what we really honestly desire. Be clear what you desire. If you don't want to be in a vegetative state with a feeding tube and a tube in your throat, not really able to mentate or think through what's going on in your own existence, then tell your family that. Allow them, give them the comfort to allow you to go with grace.
Luke was surrounded by everybody that he loved at the end. His fiancée, Wendy, his ex-wife, Minnie, his 2 kids, Jack and Sophie, his mom and his stepdad, his brothers, his sisters. So everybody that he really loved was there to support him.
And the shockwaves of Luke's death were felt by all of those closest to the beloved star.
When I heard that he passed away, my heart was really heavy that day. And again, how that impacted everyone. Certainly it impacted me, and then my first thoughts were his family, and I know that he has family and children, and what that's like, losing your father. And as a father, it brought me to my own mortality, face to face with that, and thinking, 52, it's so young.
Oh, just crushed. I mean, just, you know, he's 52 years old, and how come he couldn't survive? I mean, I just felt bad that that was it. I mean, he just couldn't, I don't know, it just didn't play well for anybody. We just didn't want it. And I guess, you know, when you think of the actors dying young, you think it's got to be an overdose or a car accident or some other bad behavior, and it's just, you weren't quite ready for, there was no even lingering illness. It was just over.
The truth is that I think if you talk to most people involved with 90210 and who really knew Luke, none of us are over this. You know, he's 52 years old. He had a lot more to give.
Everything starts flooding through, you know, the whole past, that whole, you know, time we'd all spent together and all the memories of everything included during that time period. And honestly, I still can't believe he's gone. It really hasn't even hit me yet. Hard to believe.
Ironically, his stroke happened on the same day it was announced that the 90210 spin-off was officially underway, and the cast had reunited in Los Angeles.
Certainly to think that he's, you know, in this period of time or having this stroke on the same day that they announced the new reboot of 90210 with the actors kind of playing themselves, that Luke wouldn't be a part of that. Even in a guest star role, is I know, devastating everybody.
I think just like all the cast, I mean, they were a family for 10 years, and that's such a big part of their life and career that I imagine everyone is torn up about it.
And it's pretty fantastic that you guys have stayed so close throughout the years. And I know you guys were all together recently, too.
We're very fortunate.
Yeah,
a lot of times you work on a show with somebody and you never want to see them again.
Right.
And, but we have all been pretty fortunate, I think.
Yeah. It's so good when we all get together and it's like no time has passed, literally, and those are friends for life, you know, those are relationships for life.
How do you say goodbye to one of Hollywood's most loved actors?
You know, it's just over so quickly that it just created a huge outpouring.
What I would want Luke to know, if there's one thing I could tell him, is thank you for being you.
What's Luke Perry, aka Dylan McKay, like?
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He's a dream to work with, a total professional. You know, I wish I could say something controversial.
Right.
But it's kind of really smooth and really nice.
Luke Perry made a lasting impression on everyone he met, and millions who only knew him from his TV and film roles, which is why his death has proved so shocking.
Hollywood in a state of shock, mourning the sudden loss of TV icon Luke Perry.
Great friend to this show, a great guy. Luke Perry passed away.
Story after story is surfacing of Perry doing just that, leaving his mark on the world. He helped entertain and improve.
And with his passing has come an enormous outpouring of affection.
I'm still stunned. I woke up this morning thinking that there had to have been a mistake.
Luke Perry, I mean, what was he, 52?
52.
I mean, he looked 35, picture of health. I mean, it just seems so young.
It's taken me a couple days to figure out how to write this. My dear friend of 29 years, Luke Perry, was one of those truly special people who really cared.
May your journey forward be enriched by the magnificent souls who have passed before you, just like you have done here for those you leave behind.
My heart is broken. I will miss you so much, Luke Perry. Sending all my love to your family.
My heart goes out to his family and friends who were blessed by his light in their and mine lives. Processing this is impossible right now.
I will never forget the collective shock and distress we experienced when the news broke on set. We lost a dear friend.
I hope people remember Luke through interviews like this. I mean, not just from what they saw on TV, but hearing about who he really was off screen. A great, humble person, a great father, a great friend, great to his family members, that raised him. People like that he never changed, not from where he started and from where he ended up.
It's a terrible tragedy, but he leaves behind a beautiful legacy.
Don't see much water in Minnesota. Lots of lakes, no oceans. My sympathies. Come on. Where are we going? Field trip.
One of the special qualities I liked about Luke was about his craft. He never stopped learning, improving his craft from one day to the next. What he did yesterday, he wanted to do better the next day. That, to me, was really something that I think most actors should aspire to.
I was a professional actor before I got 90210, as was Jason, and we both knew that we would be afterwards. So we try to always concentrate on that and not get too depressed sometimes when it seemed that there was no way out, and not think, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world, it will never end, because we both knew that as soon as, just as sure as you do your first episode, the day will come you'll do your last, and you got to be prepared to move on and just check out and go.
Luke Perry, personality-wise, was, a very down-to-earth guy. Maybe that is the Ohio upbringing for him, a Midwestern kind of value kind of thing. But no, he was not a flashy guy. I don't remember him driving a flashy car. I don't remember him, big time in anybody in any way. And no, he just was a really solid professional, and what you hope for in a leading man to set the tone for the show.
We all knew collectively it didn't serve us to get sucked up into the phenomenon. My job, that's not my job. My job is to play this guy. And that's the way Jason approached it too. My job isn't to get sucked up in the phenomenon and what this program is becoming. My job is to show up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock and let's get on with it.
Favorite moment of Luke Perry as a person is kind of hard to describe, but Luke always had a way of taking his arm and putting it around you and giving you a kiss on the cheek. And it was his endearing way of showing that he loved you. And it just felt like family.
On March 4th, 2019, the world lost one of its great TV stars and a man who made a lasting impression on all generations, young and old.
I think to many, Luke Perry will be remembered as 90210 bad boy Dylan McKay.
That's a deep question. Personally, I prefer blondes.
And to newer audiences, I think they'll remember him as Riverdale's Fred Andrews. But to me, he is an example of a celebrity who is cool, confident, but also a great man and a family man.
I think with Luke, professionally, he'd want people to remember that he, no matter what it was, he tried hard and left it all on the table, put it all out there. Personally, I think he'd want to remember that he just was, one of the people. And whether he was at some big fancy outing for one of his movies or Planet Hollywood, he's just a regular guy at the same time.
The story of Luke Perry, to me, is being an amalgamation of so many things. It is being a hometown hero. It is being Dylan McKay. It is being his character in Riverdale. It is being a father. It is being a good guy. It is being the rebel. It's so much can exist within one person. And what I love about Luke and what he represents is here is this rebel, earring, haired, trench coat, James Dean kind of guy back when he was on 90210. And yet the cameras could stop and he can ask how you're doing and care about every single person on that set. And I think that is a role model, not just being this rebel who drives a Porsche and wears a trench coat and, is struggling, but you can struggle and you can also care about everyone else, and you can be all of that in one person.
I think Luke would like to be remembered as a kind man who treated people well with respect, and he was a true professional in his craft. He showed up, knew his lines, didn't complain, and was good to his other actors in giving. But I think, he had a good twinkle in his eye.
Luke Perry will be remembered first and foremost as a genuinely great guy with a really, really great heart.
Luke Perry was an extraordinary individual, and all the love and support he got from all the mourners is absolutely warranted.
You never know, this could be it.
This could be it.
I've had a pretty good go of it,
Yeah.
I think. I feel pretty good.